Hi, today is January 31st, 2016. My name is Alex Barella and this is my video number 12. And as usual, it's divided into 4 parts. Events I forgot to mention before, confessions and admissions made by this voice, who since my last video has been really quiet with a few noticeable exceptions, and 3 events that took place over the last days which were really important, and my theory, and lastly my theories or conclusions. More theories than conclusions actually. In regards to the events I forgot to mention before, in my last video I forgot to mention the name of the guy who was the general manager at PerkinElmer in Argentina. His name is Alejandro Aufefer, and I forgot to mention in my last video. I also forgot that to say that Vicky or someone else sent a text message through WhatsApp, her user at WhatsApp, on the 22nd of January, saying that she was not going to call me next Saturday the 23rd because she was going to watch tennis, and I replied I was going to call the boys in blue in just in case, as usual. Regarding my last visit to Dr. Cheng on the January the 11th, my dentist, and I don't know anything about her apart from being a great dentist, but her assistant or receptionist called Aksana definitely knows a lot about me, and I noticed this when I called her the next day on the 12th to change the address. That was mentioned on the bill that they sent me, they gave me back then. The address was back in the one that I used to have a Sandringham at. I remember a girl, Andrea Krainer, a German young girl who I talked to over the phone back in September 2011, where I was living with Elaine Foster at Mount Weatherly. Elaine is an American elderly woman who contacted me when I was living at Oswald. In my previous address. He was really interested in me going to live with her. I talked to this girl over the phone, suggested by her, but we discussed a lot of things over the phone. I sent her my resume, but never heard from her again. In regards to my stay with Elaine, it lasted only 2 weeks and ended badly. She didn't want to keep me in the house, and she didn't want me in the house. Actually, she ended up stealing some stuff from my room, and the relationship was not it didn't end in the way that it's supposed to end. I remember that also back in 1999, something that I forgot, a guy called Mr. Oscar Cura, who was a recruiter at Deloitte & Touch, who was in Buenos Aires, who was the agency hired by John D. Credit to find an accounting manager for them. At the job interview back then was him and Jeff Lewis and Steve Pauling and Federico Ruck, the guy who signed my contract with them. The thing was, while attending to the British Institute in Buenos Aires to pass the IELTS, the International English Language Testing System, a test which was required by the Department of Immigration in Australia in order to get the visa, I met a former wife of Hugo Brea. Hugo Brea was the owner of PQS. PQS was his company, and it's Pan American Quality Software. He was the IT support for John D. Credit, because I hired him, because I know him from my time at Lloyds Bank. The thing is, but I didn't know her at all. She introduced herself, and we met a few times. and we met for a lunch, but it was a bit strange for me at that time because I didn't know what she wanted, but I never heard from her again. I also forgot to mention Michelle Symes, the consultant at Hayes, who got me the role at Marketing Director Australia. When I tried to contact her after my brief experience at Spring Gas, she vanished. Another guy called Julio Fontana, who was a personal trainer at Enough, a gym that I used to attend in Buenos Aires before immigrating to Australia. While living in Hampton, I remember that I sent him a postcard, but I never heard from him at all. In regards to confessions or admissions by The Voice, the early morning after the last video on the 25th of January, The Voice told me that they didn't care about the videos I'm posting on YouTube, and no matter how many videos I was planning to publish, it won't make any difference. And for they are willing to continue with their plans, which in a few words mean destroying my life and my family's life, like they did so far. And Max Employment, he said that Max Employment was going to be more of the same BS as usual. The other thing is, apparently, although it was not evident to me back then, apparently there was a voice while I was working for John D. Crate in Rosario. Although I never had this kind of contact that we have now. He also was talking about New Zealand, I don't know why, and the Sydney Link Cafe hostages back in Sydney in 2013, I think it was. Surprisingly, The Voice told me that for Jonathan Thornton, to justify the accusation of me taking money, or more money than I should have, from my annual leave entitlement, they received help from the people of MYOB, the system that I was using back then, to alter the file and justify their ridiculous allegations, which was really shocking for me to learn this from him. Now, he also is repeating that the secondary school my daughter used to attend, Our Lady of the Sacred Heart, worked for them. And also he's saying something that was really surprising, that the dog that we had back in Buenos Aires, a golden retriever that we had to get rid of because the stringent regulations for animals from overseas in Australia. We learned that that dog was given to them in 2003. I didn't know that. No, at least it's a bit surprising for me. In regards to events that took place over the last days, on the 25th of January, a letter from City of Monash saying that despite my delicate financial situation, they cannot give me more time to pay the parking fine from the 10th of July last year. And the last day to make the payment will be on the 3rd of February, next week. On the 26th of January, Australia Day, I went to Europa Market using my push bike. Ralph came by the house to clean a bit and said that Yasser was leaving on the 7th of February. Actually, on the 7th of February. I told him that I could do the cleaning since Honey doesn't want to do it, provided I get paid for that. He said that he would think about it. On the 27th of January, at 10 o'clock, I had, as I mentioned before on my previous appointment, I had the appointment at Max Employment in Dandenong. I had to walk down all the way since my car is still broken down. I couldn't fix it. I don't have the money for that. And at the agency, I met a young Muslim girl. She was wearing a headscarf, a hijab on her head. I told her I'm living with two Muslim guys, and she didn't seem very surprised. I described to her my situation. She predictably said that since I don't have a reliable car, they couldn't help me because the employers are being very fussy about that. I mentioned my videos on YouTube. She said that it was a good idea. I laughed about it. And I asked her if she watched them, and she said she didn't, and asked me where she could find them. She seemed a bit amused about the whole thing, and I reminded her that it was a very serious matter for me, considering that among other things, that I haven't seen my daughter since April 2009. She couldn't access my file on the computer and said that there was an unfinished task from my time with the Breach Employment, the previous agency. Last time that I've been there at the Breach was in July last year. I told her that it was impossible since on the 11th of November last year, Centrelink lifted the suspension from appointments with job service providers, and I had several ones at MatchWorks, being the latest one on the January the 12th. More importantly, I got a job plan signed by Paul Patterson, the guy who I made all these appointments. She couldn't explain it either, and I told her that that is called corruption in other countries, and perhaps the police was involved. She also told me that her agency requires my attendance to their premises 3 times a week. I told her that that would be impossible for me, given my present financial situation. She consulted with her manager and said that unfortunately those were their requirements, and gave me the transfer paperwork to another job agency. And well, but before that, she called the Breach Employment and said that they were not, no one was available to speak to her, but another appointment, she said, was coming. So it was a really confusing situation. And I told her that I never had any sort of disability at all. At some point, I told her that I didn't know whether they were involved or not. Now I'm pretty sure they are, especially when she told me that I should go with the flow, something that I didn't understand. Back at home, I called DIWA, the organization dealing with the agencies. I talked to John, and she said that I should follow the procedure and talk first to the site manager at Max Employment. His name is Billy Atlantas, in order to negotiate the requirement of attending 3 times a week to their office. And in the case of a negative answer, I should lodge a formal complaint with them, something that eventually I did after talking to Billy, and received a confirmation of the previous conversation. When I called DIWA again to lodge the complaint, I talked to Catherine and Daniel. Daniel was a superior instance, and he said that I should have done better research when choosing a new job service provider, saying their requirements are clearly established on each PDF file on the service section on the internet. Something that I later proved wrong, since the attendance is generally referred as regular attendance only, and this agency in particular specifies frequency of attendance, but not the rest. Nevertheless, he received the complaint. I was also told to call the Breach in order to get my file detached from that agency, something I did, leaving a message for Glenda Broadbent, my contact back there in July 2015, my last contact then. At this point, I started to suspect that the lifting of my suspension by Chris, the team leader at Centrelink Dandenong, was not real, and all the appointments at MatchWorks were fake, revealing a high case of corruption. Early in the morning, on the 28th of January, early in the morning, I called the Breach Employment again and left a message for Glenda. Called also DIWA. They told me that they sent an email to Max Employment stating my complaint, and I should hear from them in regards their conditions of attendance, but if I don't, I should call them again on not before the 3rd of February, 5 working days after lodging my complaint, which is the term that they established for these kind of things. I went to Coles supermarket in Dandenong using my bike, of course. When writing back a call from Glenda, who left a message saying I should provide them a medical certificate. Uh, it's incredible. It was incredible because considering I haven't heard from them since July 2015, and much worse, didn't ask me anything like that, and all the appointments that I had with them since last November. On the same day, I received an email from the AFP, the Australian Federal Police, 1 month after the lodgement the online, which I did on the 27th of December. It was signed by the client liaison, saying that there were not any Commonwealth crime involved in my allegations and videos, and they also stated that they already told me this back in October 2012 when I reported Clanley Holt and Associates, and it seemed like it was like they didn't want to be bothered about this, or they didn't want to see, because there are a lot of things on my videos that are worth of investigation. On the 28th, the same day, I called Glenda seeking clarifications about her last message, and she repeated me that the same bullshit that of the medical certificate, saying that she posted some paperwork on them in the mail. For me, the conversation became agitated when I asked her why they didn't contact me over the last 6 months asking for that medical certificate, because they never called me saying that or asking me for that certificate. Something that she couldn't explain, and I hung up. I also told her before that I thought there was a lot of corruption about all this, and she laughed about me. She laughed about it. I called Dewar again and explained the whole situation to another employee, in this case Ben, and he said that he couldn't explain the situation either, very nervously at times. He also said, more importantly, that Max Employment must be able to register me despite this unfinished task with the breach, and they should be detached. My file should be detached automatically once this is done. The issue of the complaint about the attendance should be resolved separately. Finally, Ben told me that if I don't hear from Max Employment by the 3rd of February, I should call them again. At the end of the conversation, Ben was really nervous, and when I asked about the paperwork sent to me by the breach employment related medical certificate, which I didn't receive yet, I should read it. And when I asked him why should I do it, he mysteriously answered that it might contain important information. So more bullshit, especially when only a few moments before he told me it was not necessary at all. On the 29th of January, I called Paul Patterson at Matchworth, the guy who I met several times since November until last January the 12th. And the receptionist told me he was with another client in a meeting, and she passed on the message for him to call me back, but he never did. At night, a message from Vicky's WhatsApp user saying she would call me on Saturday 4:30 or 5 p.m., the usual time. Usual time that she didn't call me. She never called. Actually, on the 30th of January, another message from Vicky's WhatsApp user saying she had to stay longer at work and see her boyfriend later, so unable to talk to me. I am convinced she's not the one writing any of her messages. I'm still convinced of that. Because of the wording and other things, and because of the messages that I sent to her number are never answered. They always answer through the WhatsApp messenger. Although I sent both messages to her number and WhatsApp user using the WhatsApp messenger. On the same day later, Ralph came by the house and agreed on reducing the rent, provided I do the basic cleaning in the house every week and take care of the rubbish bins. Lastly, conclusions, more theories than conclusions. For some reason, something Daniela, the hairdresser, did last January the 20th, last time that I saw her, it makes me think, or makes me believe that there are good chances that the voice is David O'Toole, the guy that I live with back in Jackson's Road, at Jackson Road. The other thing that I was is a theory as well, is that the reason that I was giving so much information in the middle of last year in relation to the fines that have been paid by someone else, the Centrelink payments that have been paid by someone else, the loans from the Springvale Aid Center, etc., was made by the previous voice, who was several years from the very beginning, and I suppose that she did it because she was angered by the fact that she was being replaced by the voice that is still there, has been talking to me ever since the middle of last year until now. Also, the other conclusion is they're taking great risks by doing things like they did on Matchbox appointments, and it reveals that they're willing to take this to the very end, no matter what the consequences. And well, despite the fact that I've been told that these videos have not been watched massively, I'm going to keep doing it. I'm going to keep posting them on YouTube until, because of different reasons. Because I beg to disagree on that. I think that the things that I see every time that I go out contradicts this in the attitude of the people towards me and other things. So I think for now it's all I got to say. Until the next time. Thank you. Bye.